What's up, weirdos? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Felicia, and today we're talking about the 1989 Stephen King film, Pet Sematary.
What is this place?
I brought you here to bury Alan's cat.
Daddy, is church all right?
Why, Judd?
I had my reasons.
Has anyone ever buried a person up there?
May the Lord make his face to shine upon you.
You're thinking thoughts best not thought of.
Daddy's gonna do something really bad.
You're thinking of putting him up there. Don't deny the thought hadn't crossed your mind.
Come back to me, Gage. Come back to us.
So Pet Sematary was written by Stephen King and directed by Mary Lampert, and is a horror movie fan favorite. There's a couple things that I think make this film really interesting, and one is that a lot of the things that happen in the book are based off of Stephen King's true life experiences. Stephen King loves Maine and has written most of his books while being there, and a lot of his books are also set in Maine. And near his house there actually is a pet cemetery that the neighborhood kids had made back in the 70s that was written Pet Cemetery with an S because somebody couldn't spell cemetery. And his daughter did have a cat that died. Its name was Smuckers in that church, but it did die, and they had to bury it in the pet cemetery and sort of explain death to their daughter for the first time. And that event inspired this book and obviously this movie. When this movie was set for production, Stephen King had two specifications that he said had to be true for this movie to happen. One is that he had to write the screenplay and not have another writer come in and do it. And second is that he wanted it shot in Maine and not in Hollywood. Though filming in Maine did make the production a lot more expensive, I think it really paid off in the authenticity of the film. A lot of the bit parts and extras were actually pulled from Maine and the town and the surrounding areas that they filmed in, which I think is really cool. And it makes a really interesting Stephen King movie because they really filmed it in his backyard. The second thing I think is really great about this movie is it's got a mix of true life and supernatural horror. This movie, along with being a great horror movie, is also about grief and family. And I think the psychological horror aspect that is in a lot of Stephen King books is really present in this movie in a very organic and real life way, which makes it that much scarier. The third thing I love about this movie is the music. So the Ramones make two musical appearances, not with their face, just with their songs. About midway through the movie, a truck driver is listening to Sheena is a Punk Rocker, and then the Ramones also, of course, wrote the song Pet Sematary just for this movie, which you can hear in the ending credits, which is really, really cool to me. Stephen King is a big Ramones fan, and so they agreed to do it, and I think that's just a really cool and fun collaboration that happened. Now, I have a lot of spoilers that I want to talk about today, so let's go ahead and get to the ratings. For the scare, I'm giving it a 2. I do not actually find this movie exceptionally scary. There's definitely things about the movie that I find scary, but in terms of my visceral reaction while watching it, I'm not actually that horrified. I think it's also a thing of it being almost 30 years since this movie came out, and so the tolerance for the scare is just much higher than it used to be. I've also heard that this movie is a million times more terrifying once you have children, which I totally understand. So maybe one day this movie will feel much scarier to me, but as this time of watching it, and I saw it when I was younger and then I rewatched it to film this, I'm gonna have to give it a 2. The gore is gonna get a 3. There are a few bloody sequences that happen. Something interesting about the gore of this movie is they actually reshot that final scene, which I won't tell you because we're not to spoilers yet, but they reshot that final scene well after production had ended to make it gorier and scarier, which I think was interesting, and I think a solid choice because that ending is effective. For the cheese, I'm gonna give it a 2 just because some things in this movie didn't age super well, and of course the idea of pets coming back to life is a little bit silly, and it's a little bit silly while watching the movie, but it's fun and I think cheesy in an effective way and not in a dumb way. Now, a quick fun fact for you: Stephen King is also an actor in this movie, funnily enough. He plays a priest in the funeral scene and does a great job. Good job, Stephen.
May the Lord bless you and keep you.
Now I'm gonna roll through a couple of my favorite scenes. One is when our leading man, Louis Creed, played by Dale Mitkiff, is taking a bath, and his now zombified cat throws a dead rat into the bathwater. Just such a shocking and silly moment, and just like really gross in a very simple way. The scene reminded me of when my dog Toby brought me a live roach and a dead roach as presents, and both times I have been absolutely horrified. But when I watched that scene, I was just like, oh my god, that's so Toby. That's so Toby. Another one of my favorite scenes is when Rachel Creed, played by Denise Crosby, is at the airport, and we have our zombie guardian angel Victor Pascoe, played by Brad Greensquit, which I hope I'm saying right. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's okay. It's just such a funny thing that he just keeps popping up and no one can really see him. It's just like a casual zombie at the airport. I just thought that scene was so funny to me. I also really like the character of Victor, and I watched some interviews with the actor, and he talks about how he really wanted to portray the character as an angel that happens to look like a zombie versus just like a creepy, scary creature. And I thought that was really clear in the film, and also just a great character choice, so good on you. Now I'm gonna give you what I thought was the scariest scene, and that's basically any scene that the sister Zelda is in. Zelda is like 100% the scariest part of this movie. She's the sister of Rachel Creed and has this sort of like spine bone thing. I can't remember exactly what it is. It basically has turned her into this like isolated, sick creature that's like a big secret for the family and just like really, really sad. Another fun fact is she's actually played by a man. They couldn't find the right actress to play the part of Zelda, and so they started bringing in men, and they found Andrew Huvestak, who like in the audition room was like crawling under the table and like super, super scary, and they were like, yes. And I think having a man in the role was a really cool choice, and I loved it. And now before we close up, I'm just gonna say my favorite line, and that is when Louis Creed is figuring out how to kill his zombie cat, and so he puts a shot in the cat's butt, which I don't understand. I don't understand why I had to go in the butt. I thought that was weird. But he says, lay down, play dead, be dead. And I was like, that is a hilarious line for Pet Sematary. Like, it's the whole movie in one line. Lay down, play dead, be dead. Like, it's perfect. It's perfect. And that's it, guys. That's my review for Pet Sematary. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Toby, play dead. Play dead.